About 78 days to the conduct of the 2023 presidential election, the United Kingdom has declared that it has no interest in who becomes Nigeria's next president. Now, speaking after a closed-door meeting with the Senator Abdullahi Adamu-led National Working Committee of the ruling All Progressives Congress, the APC in Abuja, the British High Commissioner to Nigeria, Catriona Liang, warned against any act that could intimidate eligible voters from exercising their franchise on election day. So, Babajide, yes, the UK says it would work with any candidate who emerges the president in Nigeria. But my question is, why the interest, for instance, of international community on who becomes Nigeria's next president? I mean, is it anything so peculiar? Why is it any interest to start with?
Well, they've said they are not interested in who becomes Nigeria's president, but they are interested in the process. And if they are interested in the process, I don't see anything wrong in that. Nigeria is the giant of Africa. Our strength lies not just in the size of our GDP, but
our population.
Our population. You can see how China has converted its population into strength. You know, there is no facet of the global economy where China has not positioned itself to be a big player. And they are making sure that even the wealth of China is being distributed. It may not be equitably, at least being distributed much better than before within the population, because the market is there. Like our country, the market is there. So a country like Nigeria, with the size of its population, with its economic potential, we are an oil producer,
country.
Yes, one of the biggest in the world. There's no way that countries like the UK, the US, would not have an eye on what goes on here. You know? They all want to be our friends. They also know that if violence breaks out in Nigeria, the continent of Africa cannot cope with the enormity of refugee problem that it will create. So they don't want to see such a thing happen here. And you know, every year we get all sorts of doomsday prediction. Oh, Nigeria will break up, this and that. I know that even some of those making such predictions, in their hearts they'll be praying that
it doesn't
come to pass, because the effect of such a thing on the continent, on our neighbors, you see how small our neighbors are. There's no way they can cope with the refugee problem. And is it how many? You look at a country like Togo, you look at a country like Benin Republic, they are so small. How can they cope, for example, if refugees were to flee to their country? Chad, yes, big in size, but it's largely desert. The same thing with Niger Republic. What is the size of the GDP of Niger? Probably maybe a little bigger than Kano's GDP. You know, how many vehicles do they have plying their roads and all that? It's just largely desert. So where would Nigerians, if a serious problem were to happen here, arising from the conduct of the election? Because we've seen elections tear countries apart, if not well handled. You saw what happened in Kenya. They were killing one another and all that. And some people will run away. Where will our people run to? It's something that those beating the drums of war have to consider. There is no country around us that can take in our people. So we must not even let it happen.
Right.
And one way by which people can be provoked to violence is to see clear evidence that electoral victory has been stolen from them. You know, if it didn't happen in June 12 on a scale that a country can hardly survive, recover from, it doesn't mean we should let it happen again. Election was annulled at that time. You know how many Nigerians lost their lives from protests and all that? But it was the military. So they have this way of quelling, uprising and all that, you know. But under a civilian dispensation, such a thing must not be allowed to happen. And I think that's the concern of
the United Kingdom.
Let the will of the people prevail. Do not rig the election. And these foreign countries have helped INEC a lot to improve its processes, to make our elections far more credible.
And fortified as well.
Yes, far more credible and fair than previous elections. So that will help us, help the people to be able to choose their real leaders, not leaders imposed on them by politicians who rig elections. So if our people, if the election is conducted in the right way and the will of the people prevail, I don't think anybody will be bothered. But if the election gets rigged and people start killing themselves in different parts of the country,
that's where the concern is.
It's not our neighbors alone that will be worried.
Yeah.
The whole world will be worried.